Hi, my name is Richard Roper. I'm the author of Something to Live For. This is the very snazzy Waterstones special edition with these sprayed edges of train tracks. This is the story of Andrew, a council worker who is tasked with dealing with the situation where someone dies alone. So that means he deals with their financial affairs, he sees whether they've got a next of kin, and if they haven't got a next of kin, he often attends the funerals to make sure that at least someone is there. And as far as Andrew's colleagues are concerned, he's got the perfect life away from this. He's got a loving family waiting for him when he gets back home, but that is not necessarily the case. And Andrew has been living something of a white lie. And the longer the white lie has gone on, the more he has felt comforted by it, and it's helped him feel less lonely and more normal. And then one day, Peggy starts at work, and Andrew forms a bit of a bond with Peggy. And the more he does that, the more he realises that he's got to make a decision. Is he going to carry on living this lie and pretending to feel normal, or is he going to come clean and risk losing everything, but ultimately have a second chance at living life to the full? So I'm here in the glorious environs of Waterstones Piccadilly, and I'm going to talk to you about 3 books that have inspired me as a writer. And the first book I'm going to talk about is Us by David Nicholls. I could have chosen any book by David Nicholls, really. He is, I think, probably my biggest inspiration when it comes to writing. And I think he is sort of the undisputed king at the moment of writing the flawed but ultimately lovable male protagonist. And Us features Douglas as the protagonist, and I think he probably is one of David's best characters. And this tells the story of Douglas, who at the beginning of the story finds out that his wife, Connie, of 20 years, is thinking of leaving him, and he spends the rest of this journey trying to win her back and trying to win back the respect of their son, Albie. And to me, this is just everything you want from a reading experience. It has the perfect balance of funny and sad, and within that there are digressions talking about philosophy and science, and it is just a lovely, gorgeous, brilliant book. And if you haven't read it, what are you playing at? Read it, it's great. Okay, we've just nipped up to the biography section, as the second book I'm going to talk about is actually a memoir. This is The Actual One by Izzy Sooty, and the reason I've chosen this book is that I am a self-confessed comedy nerd, comedy dweeb. I'm not entirely sure which is the correct term, but I've always been obsessed since I was a kid with comedy, with stand-up and sketch shows and sitcoms and all the rest, and kind of obsessed with the sort of the language of comedy and about jokes and why jokes work. And I always wanted to write something funny, and I remember there was a point where I was writing the novel and I was just feeling a bit despondent with it, and for some reason it just wasn't working, and I took a bit of a break, and I picked up Izzy's book, which is a memoir. It's sort of about her trying to cling on to her 20s when she's actually turned 30 and all her friends are settling down. And it is just, for me, one of the funniest books I've ever read. It is that absolute cliche of being on public transport and not really being able to read it because you just look like a mad person just laughing away to yourself. And sort of in terms of the ratio of jokes to page, it is just absolutely killer. And it really sort of inspired me and re-energized me. So when I came back to writing Something to Live For, I just felt, right, this has got to be funny now, and it just really kind of helped me. And it's been really nice when I've had a tweet from someone saying that they've read a bit that's made them feel quite emotional, but secretly I like it more when someone says that I made them laugh. So cheers, Izzy, and this is a really funny memoir, and you should all read it. Okay, this is my third and final choice. This is Revolutionary Road by Richard Yates. The reason why I've chosen this is that I have a terrible, terrible memory for books. I might have read the best thing in the world, and then 5 minutes later someone asks what was the last thing I've read, and I'll just kind of go completely blank. But for some reason with Yates, there's something about it which I can, it just feels incredibly vivid to me. And I can remember the moment where I first started reading this book. I just moved into a new house and all my stuff was sort of scattered around, and I got very bored with whatever I was trying to do. And I just picked this up off a box of books I was reading and started reading it. And about 2 hours later, I was still doing the same thing. And this is a book that tells the story of Frank and April Wheeler, who are 2 suburbanites in America who supposedly have sort of the best life, but behind the scenes lies something very, very dark, and it turns out that they've got aspirations separate to each other, and ultimately leads to quite a devastating conclusion. And I think what I particularly love about this book is the opening. I think it's got one of the greatest openings of all time. It starts with this play that April is appearing in, this sort of Amdram production, and everything appears to be fine, everything's going well, and by the time it comes to the curtain call, we actually see that the audience have completely lost faith in what's happening, and they're applauding out of politeness. And April is taking her bow, and she's got this sort of rictus grin on her face, and everyone knows that it's all a facade, yet everyone is still carrying it on. And I think as a setup for a book, that is absolutely perfect. And when I came to write Something to Live For, I knew that the opening had to be really strong and really grab people, and hopefully I've done that. So cheers, Richard Yates, and everyone should read this book because it's ace.